Hey there, Coach. Just want to just start off with your take on the very first preseason game, two groups divided into 245 minutes. Anything that stood out? When were you surprised, or how pleasantly surprised were you of how sharp the first group was, specifically in transition moments and things of that nature?
Well, both groups are sharp, Nico. Yeah, the second group might not have scored, but they had some moments. Overall, I was pleased. A lot of the stuff, the first game, we had the inter squad, and then this first game is just more for the fitness guys. And it's also an assessment tool for coaches' staff to look at some players, look at some things. But overall, I thought it was great. I mean, Pedro got a goal and assist. Jordan had a good goal. I think Snyder-Brunel looked good. Ariola's a solid player. Christian did his thing. JP was good. Dan Leva. I could go down the list. They were all pretty good. They all fit into my, expectations.
And in terms of the competition, how would you categorize this Puskas Academy team and what types of challenges they provide you and how you can kind of play off of that?
You mean from the last game?
Yeah, from the first game, yes.
Well, we didn't know much about them. Look, they're obviously got a good record in their league, but we didn't know anything about them. I did talk to the coach. He was a friendly guy. He actually played with Albert's father back in the day, so we had a good conversation. He was missing a few guys due to some illnesses, and they'd been there. That was their last preseason game before they were going home. So overall, again, that's why we love coming to Spain. It is against new teams. We can take a look at what the level is at different leagues around the world. It was good.
Jada, go ahead.
Thank you. Thanks for the time, Brian. First one I wanted to ask is about not playing in the Open Cup, and if the format stays for the future, it may not be, or y'all may not play, the first team may not play in it again. So how did you feel about getting that news? And
well, look, of course I was bummed about it, Jada. We've had a long history in the Open Cup, dating back even through my days through the USL. So it's been a good tournament for us, but I understand it. We can't play in every single tournament, or we'd be playing 60, 65 games a year. How things change, how things were decided upon, Jada, that's way above my pay grade. I just know it causes some, pause. You want to look back on all the fond memories that we had. But if I turn around and spin it a little bit, it's a great opportunity for Defiance, and maybe Defiance can make a run in the Open Cup, and it'll be a good moment for them to see what they have and see how far they can go.
And then for Friday, can you share a little bit about what the goals are and what the format will be for that preseason match? 3 45-minute periods. So again, we're still in a little bit of an assessment phase. It will be some mixed groups, some strategically mixed groups. And Alberg's another good opponent. We're looking forward to the game.
Jeremiah.
Yeah, Brian, there's been a lot of, I suppose you don't have to read too far between the lines to see that you guys have been using a lot of 3 center back formations this year. And I guess the question is, how fully of a commitment have you made to that, or is that still sampling phase and you're not sure how you guys are going to look? And I suppose it's worth asking, how much does it matter what you call it?
Well, I'm not sure of your last part of your question. What do we call it? You can call it 3-5-2, 3-4-3. You can call it, any sort of numerical 5-4-1. You can call it whatever you want. What I would tell you, Jeremiah, is always results are going to dictate what we do. We were very successful last year in 4-2-3-1, our kind of standard thing. We had a lot of success back in 2021. 13 games unbeaten to start the year with 3 center backs. This year we are trying it because we want to make, we want to see if this group of players, if that's the best fit for this particular roster. And we will let you know after the last couple of, preseason games if we're going to start like that at the beginning of the year. What I love about, some of the roster construction is that we actually have a lot of flexibility because Jesus and Paul and then Albert and Pedro and Jordan and everybody, we can play 4-2-3-1, Georgie and Paul Rothrock. We can play 4-2-3-1, we can play, 3-5-2, and we can flop. We can go, maybe this opponent, we feel 4-2-3-1 is a better matchup. Maybe against an opponent on the road, we will play with 3 center backs. So we're working on it here in preseason, and you guys will see very soon, how we come out.
And I guess Christian alluded to this too, but is it fair to say that guys like your traditional wingers that you have on this team, Georgie, Paul, De La Vega to a degree, are they being looked at potentially as playing sort of like wing back positions, or are we too in the weeds at that point?
Yeah, you're way into the weeds. We're not going to put De La Vega as a wing back. Georgie's not a wing back. We have roles for them within a 3-5-2. We have roles for them within 4-2-3-1. Again, let us get through preseason. Jeremiah, when we get home, we play Louisville. You'll have a better look at really kind of what decision we make.
Thanks.
Boss Vito.
Hey, Brian. A little bit in the weeds. I try to stay out of them. But how important is it? What are you seeing from Christian and Obed? Because regardless of whatever formation, their pivot is going to be important. How much are you seeing that pair continue to grow and work together?
Well, they're obviously super talented players. They're not true number 6s. They're kind of 6'8". They kind of have a lot of range. But JP and Danny are right there. They're doing a good job too. Obviously, when you control midfield, Maz, you know that that's important in any match. So I'm happy with those 4 guys competing for those spots, and that's going to be one of our strengths of the team.
And then you went on a little bit of a scouting mission there. What was that like when you saw Atletico Madrid? I knew you were going to smile. What was that like for you to see that?
Wonderful little day trip up to Madrid. It was good. Freddie, myself, John, Henry, we went up there and were able to, watch a match live against Villarreal. Atletico, the fans were awesome. The stadium was really good. They treated us well. Maz, they got us into a little VIP area. Henry and John and everybody, they were taking notes. I was taking in the atmosphere. I loved some of their warm-ups that they do before the game. We were curious how other teams around the world did it. Obviously, Atletico has super talented players. I mean, they're really good. You can see them live. So it just gets us more excited for the Club World Cup. And, for the people at home, I mean, it's going to be great because we're going to have a full stadium. Atmosphere is going to be great. 2 good teams playing against each other. It was well worth the trip.
And lastly, what do you need to see, speaking of expectations, what do you need to see from your club against Iborg? I mean, they actually have allowed the most goals and scored the least, but you're playing 3 different squads, obviously. But what do you need to see to take that next level as you ramp up here?
We're going to play 2 squads. We'll make some subs. The 345s was just the way it ended up with the fitness guys. We'll make a couple of subs within the 2 squads, but it's not going to be 3 separate because we need to get guys, 60-plus minutes. But look, we're gonna try and accomplish some of the things that we've been working on in training. That's number 1. We're going to try and get the fitness out of it. Adam and his staff, they will have the GPS data If guys didn't work in the game or they didn't hit their numbers for the game, they'll do extra running afterwards. I mean, we've got it pretty dialed in. But for us, obviously winning would be great, but we just want to make sure that the players understand some of the tactics that we're, giving them in training, that actually translates into success against a real opponent.
Thank you, Coach.
We'll go back for some follow-ups now. Nico Moreno, go ahead.
Thanks, Brian. Just wanted to get either an update or some insight on some of the guys that didn't play. Paul, Raprock, Ferreira, Albert, and Reed. How are they doing physically?
All four will play in this next game.
Perfect. And is there anything to Albert? He mentioned he had a little hip thing he was going to have to deal with.
He's
Any
fine.
concerns in that regard?
He's fine. He had a cortisone injection when he left Seattle. Those aren't. Injection into your hip isn't great. He's totally fine. It just he's on a plane for a long period of time and it stiffened up on him. There's nothing there. He's totally fine.
Perfect. And now official, finally, Kim Ki-hee back with the Sounders. Just wanted to get your take on, there was some early reporting, but now it's official.
Yeah, early reporting by some very astute members of the media, as always. Look, Kim Ki-hee is coming here as, a little bit of an insurance policy. Because young Stewie has had a good camp, but is he ready for prime time? Is Josh ready to fit in where Jackson plays? And, how do we, if we do play with three center backs, how do we manage minutes over the course of a long season, and especially the first part of the season? We could be playing a pile of games in that first part of the year, so it's good to have some veteran presence back there. And we'll see what he's all about and see if he still can contribute. But he'll have competition. Jonathan Bell's looked good. Leo Burney's done okay in camp, and obviously I mentioned Stewie. He's continuing to develop, so it's good competition there.
Thank you, Coach.
Jada, go ahead.
Oops, thanks. Two, but real quick, is Kim, he won't be there, right, in Spain? He'll join you in?
No, we still are working through some visa issues, but he will be in Seattle when we come back.
And then my real question is about Christian. He mentioned being able to perfect a position instead of being good at a bunch of positions. What have you seen from him in training camp, and how you'll use him this season?
Well, Christian and Obed did a great job towards the end of last year. We're looking to, fine-tune things, just make sure that they, continue to develop. Because, look, you can call Christian, a little bit of an experienced guy, but there's always room to grow. You can always get better. And, of course, we've seen Obed's trajectory. It's going like this. And, we want to keep pushing them, because I think they have a little bit more to give. I think they have a little bit more to learn. That's always healthy. And you got two willing students. They both wanna get better.
All right, Jeremiah, why don't you close us out?
Yeah, circling back on the center backs, Josh, what have you made of Josh's transition? I know we asked you about this last time, but you have another week worth of data, I suppose.
He's getting better.
What are his strengths, and what are the areas that you want to see him working on?
His areas that he needs to work on are his aerial ability. He's a big, tall kid, but he's got to get better in his heading. He's got to learn a new position, Jeremiah. There are some nuances there playing center back. Look, you take some risks in midfield. You still have 4 or 5 guys behind you, plus a goalkeeper to clean up mistakes. If you take some risks and you make a mistake, there's only Steph or Andrew behind you to clean up mistakes. So there's some nuances there to the position. Those are the things he needs to improve on. But he's got the right profile. He's filling into his body. What I like is that he's a technically clean center back. Like when you pass him the ball, he can move the ball forward, and that helps us in our attack. So lots of positives for him to start with, but you know, it's still a work in progress. My expectations are let's get him some games here in Spain. Let's see what he looks like, and then, you know, he's got to earn those minutes, and he's got to be good when it comes to CCC and MLS.
And then with Stuart, you know, he's been someone who has done presumably basically everything he could do at Defiance. What are you still hoping to see for him to get into the first team, and where does that, I guess, in your perspective, where does the decision on him lay?
A lot of that is just physical. I mean, Stuart's great. He's got a lot of good starting points, but he's still got to grow into his body. There are certain forwards in MLS that, you know, are stronger than he is right now. And so some of that's just maturity. He's got to grow a little bit more. He's got to develop a little bit more. He's close. He's close, but you are correct. He's outgrown Defiance. So that's kind of where, you know, we as a club have to see where he's going to end up. Does he stay with us? Does he train with us all the time and maybe get a couple games here or there? Or do we find a landing spot, a loan for him so he can go and test the water somewhere else? We'll work on that after preseason, after we make final decisions on the roster.
And then if I could ask one more question about the sort of the tail end of the roster. You know, with Brodilio leaving, it seems to open up potentially some space. You do have a few non-roster, or a few players who are not currently on the first team roster with you. Do you see those players as competing for first team roster spots right now, or is that more for as the season goes on?
Nope. Well, Craig's going to have his hands full when he comes here, because he's going to come visit us here, and he and I can sit down and I can give him the full report and he can watch the games. Bear's decent. Ryan Bear's decent. Bernie's obviously got some experience. He's got a little polishing to do, but he's been decent. Seba has been a surprise, you know, a little bit better than my expectations. Osaze's been a handful. I mean, just like you guys see him at Defiance, I mean, that kid's physically really, really good. You've got Kalani, who I'm telling you has all the physical attributes to be a wingback. Snyder Brunel, super smart kid. Tactics, knowing how to play in pockets. His you know, technical ability under tight quarters is really good. So we're gonna have a long conversation when Craig gets here, and yeah, there might be a signing or two. I don't know when. I can't tell you when, but there's kids that are certainly deserved of a roster spot.